Carole Kravetz is an editor for the morning show on Apple TV Plus, which is itself about the making of a TV show. So how did the opportunity come about to work on the show?
Very traditional way. I got a call. I knew one of the producers, and I got an interview with Mimi Leder, and I have to say it was a great meeting. We hit it off, and they offered me the show, and they offered me to cut the pilot, which is we don't really call it a pilot, but episode 1, which is always interesting and challenging. So that's how I got hired. Yeah.
And what is it like, doing the first episode of a show where you're helping to kind of set the tone and create the pacing for the show? And what is that more challenging than like if you came onto a show midway through?
Oh yes, absolutely. I mean, setting up episode 1 is a challenge on any show, because you have a script and you're following the script, but it's a whole new version of a script that happens once the actors start to, take hold of their characters and their transformations. Things change, and you have to find the tone. And in this particular instance for the morning show, the tone was really difficult to find and challenging and interesting for an editor, because we have these incredible comedic actors, but the story is not funny. There's a lot of humor, and there are really great moments for humorous moments, but it really is a drama. And so to find how to navigate finding the humor through the drama, that was very, very challenging. And it's finding the story and finding what the music would be, how we would play music, and all that was definitely, it took us a while to find it. But it's always the case with episode 1, always. So it's a challenge for everyone. It's a challenge for the director, for, who set up the way it's going to look like, and the actors finding their characters, for the first time establishing their characters, and for us. So it's sort of all the way down the line.
And when you're, as you mentioned, you have the show that has comedic moments, but it's also like a serious drama. Like what in the editing sort of goes into, walking that fine line? Like, is there something about the timing that sort of, if you cut this too short, it makes something, hit the wrong way, maybe not as serious as it should have been, or maybe too funny, or like how minute, how fine is that calculus that goes into that?
Well, the work of the editor is basically the first pass we do is a response to what we're seeing and what the actors are giving. And so they are the ones who sort of guide us, I mean, obviously we have a story and the dialogue, the script, but they also sort of guide us in the way they are approaching their character and how they are delivering the lines. So, what was your question exactly? Can you say it again? Because I was going on another tangent, I think.
Oh yeah, no, I was just wondering, what are the sort of details that go into editing that right. Sort of balance that comedy with that drama?
Right. So basically, at first you obviously study what the actors are giving you, and in this case, there was a lot of comedy and a lot of dramatic moments. So we had to figure out when we could let the comedy happen, and try to figure out if it was too much, if we were so sort of pushing the show towards comedy too much, because we certainly didn't want to do that. There were certainly moments that were amazingly funny in what they were giving us. So it's basically like a painter, you have like layers, you try something and then you look at it, and, we all work together with the writers and the producers and the director, and two of our producers are, Jennifer Aniston and Reese Witherspoon. They also are producers, so they were also involved. And so you have to gauge, where it's going. And it's a lot of trying and finding and sort of narrowing. You try different things and then you narrow, and then you find the balance, because it's really trying to find that balance between the drama and the comedy. So I think we found it. I liked a lot of the way Mimi shot the pilot. She gave a lot of time outside the dialogue, especially with the character of Jennifer Aniston's Alex Bradley. She let the camera hold on her to record her emotion, and this is sort of totally counter comedy, because when you think of comedy, you think fast rhythm, but it was incredibly moving and humorous at the same time. And she had this long move onto her face, recording everything, and through recording all those emotions she was going through, there was a lot of humor coming out, and it was quite amazing.
And, it's interesting to be working on, you're an editor for a show that's about the making of a show. Did that feel like kind of a meta experience where you're sort of cutting scenes about people, sort of not specifically in the exact kind of TV that you make, but, did that feel sort of going behind the looking glass of your own job in a way?
It's quite different, I have to say. It's very different, because when you're on live television has nothing to do with what we're doing. It's the opposite, actually. We have so much time to be able to think and try and change. They don't. It's all in the moment. And that's why there's so much tension in the show, because when you're live, you feel it. And, there's that tension. If anything goes wrong, it just goes wrong. You can't catch it. So it was interesting, but I had to learn a lot, because it has nothing to do with what I do, because we're on a completely different time frame. They always work in urgency and, in the moment, and we always work with reflecting, thinking, and they don't have time to do that. But yes, it is behind the scenes, and it allowed us to show that and show how they put these shows together, the morning show. So I had to learn, actually. I had to learn how they do it in order to be able to cut it. And we had an advisor, TV director, who came in the cutting room and told us, everything, all the rules, how they talk to each other in the studio, on the floor, in the studio. And so we had to, actually, it was a whole learning process.
And, one of the things about the morning show is that there's so many cast members, so many, moving parts to, the story. Is that always more complex, a sort of editing process when you're dealing with a show with this many kind of storylines and this many characters balanced off of each other?
Well, yes, of course, because you have to find the movement through the episode, and you don't want the episode to feel like a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit there, a little bit there. It has to flow as one thing, although we go into and check into the different characters, and especially episode 1 where you set up everyone, so it has to be done. But it also comes from the writing, and it was an incredible script. And it was a beautiful script written by Carrie Aaron, and it really allowed you to present all these characters without feeling too much like, okay, now we're introducing him and we're introducing her. There was a way to connect them, even though they, like the Jennifer Aniston character, Alex Levy, and Bradley Jackson, played by Reese Witherspoon, hadn't met in episode 1. You knew they were going to meet at some point, and I just feel like it was woven in a way that worked, so you felt like there was a movement forward instead of stopping and introducing all these characters. So yes, you have to find what the forward flow is. So it comes in the writing too, of course.
The show is about the experiences of women in the TV industry and in media in general. And of course, you've got women working in front of and behind the camera on the show. You know, Carrie Aaron, Mimi Leader, Lynn Shelton, of course, Reese Witherspoon and Jennifer Aniston. What was it like to tackle a story that deals with the kinds of issues that this show deals with that kind of group of women at the helm, which is something that is still pretty rare in entertainment?
Yeah, incredibly exciting. I have to tell you that I've been in this business for many years, and I love every show I've worked on, but this was very special. This was very special, and I still, you know, it always have a special place in my heart because it just felt so important for women. It talked about things that we had been hearing about, sexual misconduct in the workplace, things like this, you know. But I think it opened the specificity of our story, open discussion, because, you know, as Mitch Kessler says, you know, it wasn't that sort of first wave predator who, you know, is obviously, you know, attacking women in this way. It was a much more subtle, in the workplace power dynamic. And I just don't think we've seen that or even discussed that in the way that it happened for the Hannah Schoenfeld character. And it felt incredibly important to talk about it. And very, very exciting to be part of it. And the women, I think we all felt we were doing something important, and we worked incredibly hard. It was a very difficult show. It was, you know, the first show for Apple. There was pressure, and it was also incredibly ambitious in terms of production. And so, and the time we had to do it. But I don't think we ever lost the excitement. Even through the hard work, it was incredibly exciting to be part of this project. And there was this real strong sisterhood, if I can say it like that. I mean, there were obviously incredible men working with us. Our producer, amazing, but it was very powerful. Yeah.
And you know, in addition to sort of, you know, setting the tone for the show in the first episode, you also got to close the season. You worked on the finale episode. How did that experience differ from the first one? Because, you know, obviously you have to set everything up in the first one, and there's that challenge. But then you have to pay off all this tension that's building throughout the season in the last one.
That's such a great question, I have to say. I mean, it was the episode one was really difficult because we were unsure about the tone. We were looking for what kind of music. It was difficult. And by the end, by episode 10, I knew the show. You know, we had been cutting for months, and everybody knew what they were doing exactly. And it allowed us to really go beyond and explore and take chances with music, and even maybe how she shot it and the performances. And there was this sense of freedom for me in the editing in episode 10 that I relished. That was incredibly wonderful because we knew the world, we knew the characters, and therefore it was pleasure only. In the cutting room, it was it felt, you know, cutting 1 and cutting 10 felt like a really great path for me as an editor. It was really wonderful to be able to open and close it. Yeah.
And you know, the show is going into its second season until, of course, you know, the world went haywire. Were you coming back to work on season 2, or had you done any work for it before?
Yeah, we had just started, and really, honestly, everyone was so excited. We were so excited to be back. I could tell in the performances I was getting. I think we had just done 3 weeks that, and I could feel we were on a roll. And it all came to a grinding stop. And we just have to wait now, obviously. But it's good. It's going to be really great. It's going to be very exciting season 2.
Well, I mean, I'm looking forward to season 2 whenever, hopefully, you can get back to working on it. And congratulations on all your hard work on season 1. And thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much. Thank you.